In 1999, Robert Downey Jr. called a judge from prison using a jail payphone, begging for rehab instead of more time behind bars. The same man Hollywood later deemed too risky would anchor a $25 billion franchise and win an Oscar after his comeback.
I'd like to thank my terrible childhood.
How did an actor who hit rock bottom transform into the highest paid star in Hollywood? What forces aligned to create this extraordinary second act? Today, I'm exposing the real story behind the most spectacular career resurrection in entertainment history, and the powerful people who gambled everything on a man everyone else had written off. This is the inside story of an impossible redemption. The Golden Boy's spectacular flameout. Before Robert Downey Jr. became the face of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, he was Hollywood's most spectacular cautionary tale. From the moment he first appeared on screen at just 5 years old, in his father's film, Pound, the industry recognized something special, a natural talent with charisma that couldn't be taught. By his 20s, Downey had transformed into Hollywood's golden child, captivating audiences with his magnetic screen presence. His haunting performance in Less Than Zero marked his emergence as a serious actor. Playing Julian Wells, a drug-addicted rich kid spiraling out of control, Downey delivered a performance that mirrored the role that would consume his actual life for the next decade, art imitating life in the most destructive way possible. This talent burned so bright that by 1992, at just 27, Downey had scored an Academy Award nomination for his transformative performance as Charlie Chaplin. Hollywood executives rushed to work with him, offering multi-million-dollar paydays for what appeared to be the beginning of one of the greatest acting careers in history. Yet behind the dazzling success, Downey's life was imploding. While collecting million-dollar paychecks, he was simultaneously spending up to $1,000 daily on drugs, over $350,000 annually on substances. This wasn't casual use. This was full-blown addiction, hidden behind A-list roles and Hollywood glamour. The facade crumbled in June 1996 when police caught Downey speeding down Sunset Boulevard with heroin, cocaine, crack cocaine, and an unloaded .357 Magnum. Hollywood initially dismissed it as typical bad boy behavior until the Goldilocks incident. A month later, Downey, while on parole, broke into a neighbor's home and was found passed out in their bed, making everyone realize his career was potentially over. The fallout was devastating. Insurance companies placed astronomical bonds of up to $5 million on productions wanting to cast him. Even when Woody Allen desperately wanted him for Melinda and Melinda, the insurance barrier proved insurmountable. Robert Downey Jr. had become radioactive in the industry. Each rehab attempt ended in failure, followed by more disturbing headlines. Industry insiders placed actual bets on whether he'd end up institutionalized, imprisoned, or dead. The actor who once commanded millions was now unemployable, a walking insurance nightmare who couldn't be trusted to complete filming without incident. The contrast was stark and tragic. The once celebrated actor with once-in-a-generation talent was widely considered the most spectacular waste of potential Hollywood had seen in decades. By 2003, the industry had essentially written Downey's career obituary, relegating him to the ever-growing pile of promising stars who blazed too bright and crashed too hard. The secret Hollywood rescue mission. While the industry was busy placing bets on whether Downey would end up dead or in prison, Mel Gibson, still Hollywood royalty at the time, was secretly writing a check that would change everything. In 2003, when everyone else had given up, Gibson put his money and reputation on the line for his former Air America co-star. This daring act of faith defied industry norms and became a financial lifeline that literally made Downey employable again. Gibson personally covered Downey's insurance bond for the singing detective, essentially telling the completion bond companies, if he messes up, I'll pay for it. This was a kind of industry insider move that happens behind closed doors, the kind that makes or breaks careers when the cameras aren't rolling. The risk was massive. Gibson was potentially flushing millions down the toilet if Downey relapsed during filming. Hollywood's message was crystal clear. Insurance companies had blacklisted him, studios wouldn't touch him, and one executive even called hiring Downey career suicide, a devastating verdict for the former A-lister. Gibson's financial gamble was like placing the first domino in what became a multi-year rehabilitation campaign. From 2003 to 2007, Downey essentially served a secret probation period in Hollywood. Those roles in Gothika and Kiss Kiss Bang Bang were calculated tests designed to prove one thing: that Robert Downey Jr. could actually show up to set every day, stay sober, hit his marks, and not cause a production-halting disaster. These films barely broke even, but they accomplished something far more valuable than box office numbers. They created whispers. Small ripples of, "Have you heard about Downey lately?" started circulating among a tight circle of Hollywood power players. The gossip transformed from arrest reports to stories about his remarkable focus and transformed work ethic. In an industry built on perception, these whispers were worth their weight in gold. Then enters Jon Favreau, a director looking for someone who could transform an obscure comic book character into a household name. While most saw Downey as a liability, Favreau saw untapped potential that could turn a B-list superhero named Iron Man into a cultural phenomenon. The director became convinced that Downey's natural wit, charisma, and complex persona were exactly what Tony Stark needed to leap off the page. When Favreau first suggested casting the drug addict as the cornerstone of their franchise, Marvel executives literally laughed him out of the room. The resistance was so intense that Favreau eventually had to drop the nuclear option. It's Downey or I walk. This ultimatum sent shockwaves through Marvel's boardroom, forcing them to reconsider their stance. Marvel finally caved, but offered Downey a measly $500,000 base salary and wrapped his contract in sobriety clauses so strict they practically needed their own legal team to draft. This became the biggest gamble in modern Hollywood history, with Marvel essentially saying, "Fine, we'll take this insane risk, but we're not going to pay full price for it." From liability to billion-dollar asset, Marvel's reluctant $500,000 gamble would soon look like the entertainment industry's most embarrassing lowball offer in history. Within just a few years, the studio that had once considered Downey too risky to fully invest in would end up paying him more than most A-list actors earn in their entire careers combined, and he was worth every penny of it. Iron Man was a cultural earthquake that permanently shifted Hollywood's tectonic plates. A superhero movie starring a B-list Marvel character, initially projected to earn a modest $100 million domestically, exploded to over $585 million worldwide. Audiences embraced Downey's performance so completely that they couldn't imagine anyone else as Tony Stark. While fans were falling in love with the character, Downey simmered behind the scenes. Marvel had structured his initial deal like a poker player hedging their bets. No back-end points, no profit participation, nothing that would give him a share if the franchise succeeded. Their message was clear: we'll give you a shot, but we're not betting real money on you. Downey's first strategic move wasn't celebrating his comeback, it was firing his agent. The actor who couldn't get hired months earlier brought in a ruthless negotiator with one mission: make Marvel pay for their lack of faith. This was about leverage, respect, and completely flipping the power dynamic. By Iron Man 3, Downey transformed from grateful comeback kid to Hollywood power player. His new deal reportedly netted him $75 million for that single film, more than many blockbuster budgets. The studios that once laughed at Jon Favreau for suggesting the drug addict were now signing unprecedented checks. With each Marvel success, Downey strengthened his position, eventually securing a guaranteed 8% of MCU gross revenues. When executives tried playing hardball during Avengers negotiations, Downey stood firm. He understood what the studio was just realizing: audiences were coming for him. Simultaneously, he engineered a complete public image rehabilitation. By 2015, the man once considered Hollywood's most toxic liability enjoyed a 93% public approval rating. Americans actively embraced his redemption story, transforming him from cautionary tale to cultural icon in less than a decade. Downey leveraged his renewed influence to pursue projects showcasing his acting beyond superhero roles. Films like The Judge secured financing through his star power, as he methodically reclaimed every piece of his reputation that addiction had destroyed. The financial transformation remains staggering. From uninsurable pariah to commanding over $20 million up front plus substantial back-end percentages, Downey collected an estimated $500 million from Marvel films alone. By 2019, when he finally hung up Iron Man's armor, Downey had engineered the most lucrative career resurrection in Hollywood history. The industry's biggest liability had transformed into its most bankable asset, proving that talent combined with strategic business acumen can completely rewrite even the most definitive career obituary. Conclusion. Robert Downey Jr. just gave Hollywood the ultimate mic drop moment at the 2024 Oscars.
I'd like to
With his
thank
stature
my
for
terrible
Oppenheimer
childhood.
clutched in hand, he thanked his terrible childhood and the Academy in that order. A perfect blend of humor and raw honesty that only someone who's truly lived could deliver. When he admitted, "I needed this job more than it needed me," you could feel decades of struggle packed into one sentence. This Oscar represents the final chapter in Hollywood's greatest redemption story, the culmination of a 30-year journey that began with his first nomination for Chaplin. Like a phoenix rising from its ashes, Downey's triumph forces us to reconsider what's possible when talent meets perseverance.